Two witnesses. One is a woman who's followed me for years. She said in 1979 I was in an airplane with her, commercial flight, and we became very intimate. I just sat down. I think I had the book, The Art of the Deal. I was famous then, too. I've been famous for a long time. And we're sitting in first class, according to her. Never happened, by the way. Totally made up story. She's a Clinton person, too, by the way. Big Clinton person. She made up the story. And so many years ago, and I think it would be 1979. One of my many people behind me could correct it, but I think she said 1979. That's a long time ago. And I sat down. I believe I had some pretty big success then, and I was being talked about a lot. Maybe The Art of the Deal was out, sometime after that. I'm not sure. But I was well known. And passengers are coming into the plane. And she said I was making out with her. And then, after 15 minutes, and then she changed her story a couple of times, maybe it was quicker, that I grabbed her at a certain part, and that was when she had enough. Now, so think of the impracticality of this. I'm famous. I'm in a plane. People are coming into the plane. And I'm looking at a woman, and I grab her, and I start kissing her and making out with her. What are the chances of that happening? What are the chances? And frankly, I know you're going to say it's a terrible thing to say, but it couldn't have happened. It didn't happen. And she would not have been the chosen one. She would not have been the chosen one. She has gone around for years saying the story. Everywhere I go, she says this story. And it's a total lie. Now, I assume she'll sue me now for defamation like I got sued by E. Jean Carroll. One is named Jessica Leeds, so she was up again. She can't get rid of her. She was up. She said I was in an airplane doing that. A couple of things. You have an armrest in planes back in those days. Oh, by the way, she didn't know anything about the flight, where we were going. I was in very few flights. I was a New York guy building New York buildings. I was in very few airplanes, I will tell you, in those days. 1979, I think. It's a long time ago. But you had the armrest, and in the old days, they didn't move. Okay? But she said she then got out, and she went to the back of the plane, and that was the end of the story, I think. And this story has followed me for years. But just to finish with her, Jessica Leeds, no police reports, no witnesses, no corroboration of any kind, no criminal suggestions, no nothing. Then you have another one, and this one is a writer for People magazine, who I actually thought was very nice. She came to Mar-a-Lago, and she wrote the most beautiful story you've ever seen. It was a love story about Melania and myself, a love story in People magazine. And that was it. It was a cover, I think, but it was a beautiful story. Everybody would love to have that marriage. She said the nicest things about me, about Melania. You have the story. I mean, you can read the story. And her name was whoever. Let's see. Her name was who? Swornoff, yeah. I don't have it. Whatever her name was. I don't know the lady, so perhaps it's much better that way, but I really don't know the lady. So she wrote this beautiful story, and about, I don't know, years later, no police reports, no anything. Years later, the same person they called up, did you attack at Mar-a-Lago this woman, this writer, whatever her name is? And she was a witness in a case. Her and Leeds were the two witnesses, only two witnesses. Did you attack her? I said, who is she? And they said, she writes for People magazine. I said, I don't know anything about the lady. If I had a story long ago, years before, about People, but it was a very nice story. So I don't know. It has to be made up because I don't know what you're talking about. It turned out that the same lady that wrote this beautiful story years later said I attacked her. Now, think of this. Oh, and she said the butler knew everything. The old expression, the butler did it, right? Very famous in crime stories. Well, the butler was Tony Senecal, worked for me for a long time. He was retired at that time. That was years later. He retired. He was retired when this hoax came out. And what happened is he totally confirmed my story, and he didn't even work for me anymore. He passed away a couple of years ago, a good man. He said the woman was crazy. It never happened. I was the one that served her whatever she was drinking, and I was there, and nothing ever happened.
Wow, and then some. I mean, where do we begin analyzing this mess? For starters, let's begin with a cognitive check. You know, Donald, The Art of the Deal that you pretended to write, well, that was published in 1987, not 1979. Morality check. You profess innocence because the woman that you spoke of was apparently not attractive enough for you to try to assault. Hey, wait a second. Who was it that said, let Trump be Trump in the first place?
I came up with this little thing. It was called, Let Trump Be Trump.
Oh, right. It's that genius. Corey, unhand my wife, Lewandowski. We could ask Hope Hicks about Trump's locker room talk regarding her tale of woe with both of them, but I digress because what we just witnessed was a man subconsciously exposing his guilt, incapable of any real human empathy, a man displacing any pain he caused to his victims by casting himself as the victim, as well as obscuring any personal accountability with nonsense details about armrests. And as is the norm in the version of America that he so desperately wants us to go back to, Donald has left it up to a woman to come in and clean up his foul mess. But before we show you that video, here's a big question for Alina Habba. Do you think you'll go down in history as Trump's loyal lawyer or as his unethical enabler? Well, watch this extra bonus video and tell us your answer to that question in the comments below.
Good afternoon. I've done this one too many times, actually too many times for the last 3.5 years while President Trump has been trying to fight to get this country back. And I want to speak to the American women, and I want to speak to the people that need to get out and vote on November 5th. I have sat with President Trump for years now, while he has been targeted with lies and with judges, AGs, and DAs who have specifically run in this city and others on getting Trump. The Trump administration will fix this problem. We will stop Kamala Harris's regime, because she was there, let's not forget that, and she still is, of using officials from the White House, putting them in DA's offices, in AG's offices, and attacking your political opponent. And this country deserves better than this.